Welcome to your Farm and Home Show. My name is Joanna Coles, and this morning we're visiting with Jason Phillips. He's a Simpson County Extension Agent for Agriculture and Natural Resources, and today we're going to talk about gardening.
Oh yeah, we've been inside all winter, and now it's getting warm, and we're ready to get outside and do things. But you can't jump the gun. You can't get out there too early, because what's a shame is to see people work very, very hard, and then we get a late frost, which is almost inevitable.
And probably tomatoes are the victim, I feel like, most of the time, because tomatoes are king in our Kentucky garden.
Right. And sometimes you're not watching the weather, you're not paying as close of attention, and then you wake up and it's too late. So, and some of our gardens are really large, so it's not even feasible.
Right.
It can be difficult, to say the least, to cover up all those things.
Right, but there's some vegetables that like cool weather that can absorb some of the frost events. You know, some of those early vegetables that we can plant right now, broccoli, cabbage, lettuces, those type of things, and they're great.
Yeah, our leafy greens.
Yes.
I mean, they're good in the cooler temperatures, but when looking, a lot of people, when we think about gardens, a lot of people are thinking about those summer vegetables, like you say, tomatoes and all those cucumbers, squash,
peppers,
zucchini, peppers.
So Jason, if people aren't familiar with gardening, with food costs that are high, I think more people this year are probably going to look to growing their own gardens, but if they don't have experience, how can we help?
There's lots of reasons, too, that I hear. Obviously, food costs are one. Some people can't find the varieties or the types that they're looking for. There's lots and lots of reasons, and of course, self-fulfillment out of planting your garden and then getting to harvest that, knowing exactly how you raised it and how you grew it. But we've got lots of publications available to folks as you're learning to garden, and then as you continue to garden. ID 128, Home Vegetable Gardening in Kentucky, is a tremendous resource, and it covers anything that you would want to know about gardening, from those cool season crops that we've discussed into the summer months, not just planting and planting, but also then care for those plants throughout the season.
Yeah, because if you're going to plant squash, you're probably going to run into the squash bug, and those type of things, and you need to know how to prevent, or maybe how to take care of it if you do see those.
Yeah, and so I would encourage people too, if you do see bugs or potential disease issues in your garden, that's what we're here for at the University of Kentucky Cooperative Extension Service. We will identify those bugs, because the first step in controlling a pest is knowing what you're dealing with, because you can certainly use the wrong thing and it may not be effective against that particular pest. So we want to, number one, identify that pest, and we've got plant disease diagnostic services, insect identification services, so we can help you throughout the growing season. One thing that I want to tell you is when I first started gardening, one of my biggest failures is the fact that I didn't use anything for weed control. And I believe it drove my grandfather crazy, because his garden never had weeds in it, and mine did. So if you don't have time to constantly be out there pulling weeds, of course the weeds compete with the tomatoes or squash or whatever it is that you're trying to grow for nutrients and for water, and also, of course, can cause more disease issues. So I would encourage people to use some mulching material in order to minimize weed problems in your garden.
And that helps maintain moisture as well. So there's several benefits to that.
It does. It shades the soil, keeps it cool, adds moisture. Now some people like to work in between the rows if you've got like a hand tiller or something like that. Now that can be effective too. Of course, you can use lots of different materials, straw, you can use newspaper. I like to use newspaper in smaller garden spots with straw on top of it. And of course nowadays all inks are soy based, so even if it's color paper, you don't have to worry about that. Depending on what it is that you're trying to grow, we need to know exactly what we're working with in terms of pH, in terms of nutrients, and you're going to learn all that information through a soil test. We'll help you to interpret the results of that soil test, and it's going to tell you what you need to do in order to have the optimum likelihood for success with your desired crops.
And that's what we want, right?
That's exactly.
And so if you need help gardening, make sure to contact your extension office. We have the SnapEd garden calendars,
Sure.
Tons of recipe inspiration.
Some of those SnapEd recipes are great.
We appreciate you watching the Farm and Home Show, and we'll see you next time.